Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Astrology. How are you folks doing out there? We are in full-on eclipse season. You've made it through one eclipse. We had our Aries solar eclipse, and now we are going through the portal zone, taking us up to the May 5th eclipse. So in this video, I'm actually going to do a bit of just forecasting, astro forecasting for the next week. So really looking roughly around the 22nd of April to the 29th, 30th of April, just kind of giving you some of the energies that are coming up because there's a lot of energies coming up for us. And I know I've heard from some folks that the eclipse has been a bit intense in this eclipse season. I mean, they usually are intense. They're about bringing some stuff up so that we can transform. And, as you know, we had this eclipse on the 19th, 20th at the final degree of Aries. Like, that is some intense energy. And so what's this week about? Firstly, welcome to Taurus season. Just hours after the eclipse, we had the sun and the moon shift into Taurus, and this is really significant. So part of the reason this is significant is firstly, right away, that's a huge energy change, right? Aries is this very impulsive, especially when we're working with kind of the higher elevated Aries, we're talking about the sacred self energy. We're talking about how we are transforming into these parts of ourselves that we have probably been working on for a while, and they're starting to come out in new ways now. This is what we've been talking about for the past few weeks. And then we move into this grounded earth Taurus energy, which is much more about being in the body, which is much more about really focusing on our values. It's more about learning with the body, the senses. It's a much slower energy than the Aries energy. So that's a big shift. And given that there was so much going on, you could have like this kind of bracing, or the brakes could be coming on really suddenly and like really within the psyche, within the body. And that can kind of create a little tension sometimes. Again, it always depends on our chart and if things are being spoken with in our chart. How the eclipse hits us depends on our chart. But so what's really important in these next few days is that as the sun moves into Taurus, right away when it came into Taurus, that's when the sun came into an exact square with our Pluto. So Pluto is playing a major role in this eclipse season because Pluto is squaring the nodes, and Pluto was squaring the sun and the moon during our eclipse. But then we moved into Taurus, and that's when the exact square happened. This is really significant. So, and then just a few days later, we're going to have two major retrograde. Mercury is in retrograde as you're watching this video, and Pluto's going to go retrograde on May 1st. Okay, so the sun is squaring Pluto. It's in this, we've just burst through, there's transformation going on. And then it's kind of like, that's when the breakdown happens, just after the eclipse. It's leading. And then there's this kind of, Pluto breaks things down so that it can transform. Okay, this is major breakthrough energy in our identity. Okay, Taurus, even though we're not talking about the self in the Aries way, Taurus is very much about us. This is in the beginning of the zodiac. Especially the first few signs of the zodiac are really like, woo, who am I? What is this body? I can talk. It's about learning about ourselves as the foundation that, especially Taurus energy is really about the foundation of the self in the material plane that we're going to build our life on, whether that's our body or our resources, our values, the way that our values shape how we spend money, who we enter into relationship with. So this is still about the self, and Pluto is talking now to the Taurus energy, which is also asking us to be reflective on how this energy of like this new self that is really coming up. And, maybe for some of you this is little, maybe for some of you it's big, maybe it's about reflecting on, you know, different aspects of the self that we've been trying to shed, and now it's like, holy moly, we are shedding them and we don't need to behave the way that we have behaved. But in the collective, okay, these are major shifts. And this Pluto square the nodes energy, as Pluto is kind of in this transitional phase of entering into Aquarius, and then it's going to go back into Capricorn and then eventually move on in Aquarius. This is big energy in terms of things are being let go of that we will never have again, individually and collectively. Some of us feel it, you know, with like a sacred pulse of, yeah, we're doing this. Others, it might be more subtle. Again, it depends on your chart. But it is important to know that collectively, we are entering a new phase of a new paradigm. And we're in the beginning of that. And so individually, this is happening as the sun is kind of moving through that square with Pluto, which is going to last, you know, it's pretty intense. It's intense on this weekend, on the 22nd, 23rd, and then it starts getting further. The 25th is kind of the last day we're going to be like fully working with that energy, and then it just keeps expanding, okay? So that's really important to know. But then that Pluto goes retrograde May 1st, right? And it will be retrograde for the second eclipse. I will post the video on the May 5th eclipse next week. Just, it's really important to be with these energies right now. That said, I will drop the link below. I am doing a live Zoom class on May 6th for folks that want to kind of get a little bit more support, join community, have some fun, talking and learning about the energies. You can click on the link below if you're interested in that. And there's a really, really beautiful energy that's happening during this square of the sun and Pluto, which is April 24th. April 24th, that sun is going to be conjunct the North Node and Vesta. Okay, so they're going to be all together up there in Taurus. This is beautiful energy, these three coming together. Vesta she's our goddess of divine feminine energy. She is how we tend to our sacred hearth, our creative fires. These are the fires of sacred creative energy, sacred sexuality. They are between us and the goddess, and then they ripple out into our work and our other relationships. This is not a sexuality of being a sexualized object like we see all over in the media. Even when it's supposedly empowered, it's still sexualizing and objectifying. This is a very interior experience of divinely creative energy. And this is conjunct the North Node and the sun in Taurus. This is a day to really honor the body. Honor the body as this vessel that we get to do this life in. You know, yes, sometimes our mind wants to go this way and our body is going this way. Sometimes, you know, and that's when we need to work on the mind-body connection and kind of release the tension that we cannot but get caught up in with these minds and in the society that we live in. But on this day, April 24th, it's really a lovely idea to just tune in to what's going on in the body, what messages are coming through, care about what you eat, get sleep and rest, maybe make art, whatever it is you want to do, have a beautiful conversation with someone, be in nature. We are in Taurus. And while this is going on, the sun there at that 4 degree, this is at the 4 degrees of Taurus, is also sextiling Saturn, as is the North Node and as is Vesta, our Saturn, who's in Pisces. So, you know, this is also supportive energy where Saturn is going through that Pisces part of our chart, really cleaning up, asking us to bring the structures of our kind of spirituality and spiritual selves into more concrete presence in our life, and to potentially let go of the things in those Pisces places of our charts that are preventing us from really embodying our relationship with the divine in our life. And that energy is just, you know, supporting this Vesta North Node Sun energy. So that is something to really just kind of appreciate, however it manifests. And then Vesta is going to keep going forward, and it is going to stay conjunct the North Node, okay? But then, and I'm not going to talk about this too much, but it's important to know that this is happening because Vesta's been so present with us during this eclipse season, and she still is. And so when we come to our May 5th eclipse, she's going to be conjunct Mercury, who's going to be retrograde. Okay, so potentially giving us some insights and asking us to reflect on how we can cultivate that sacred hearth energy in our lives, how it can be a stronger support for these changes and transformations that we are going through. It's also just important to note the fact that Pluto and Mercury are retrograde during this eclipse portal, during the next eclipse. This really suggests that the energy that we've been feeling that's calling us, what is calling you? What in your life have you maybe actually been afraid to manifest? Or, yes, there's probably fear there, but a part of us didn't even necessarily believe that it was possible to live a certain type of life, whether that comes from family or social conditioning or what we've been taught about success and validation. But there's this path that is the soul's path that we are here to walk. And that is not about what society tells us is successful. Sometimes it's not about what our family tells us is successful. It's about what we're here to be aligned with. And that is the energy that is coming forth. And it's so important to listen to that. And these retrograde energies, especially with Pluto, really suggest that, yes, we kind of burst through in parts and we make some changes and we slow down and we reflect. Okay, if we're fully talking about paradigm shift and the way that our individual lives are always connected to that collective paradigm shift, this takes time. It's so important to go gentle with yourselves and to know that it might be that we materialize shifts and changes in certain parts of our lives, but we're talking about long-term changes. The retrograde means reassessment, reflection, reconsidering, okay? Maybe we are making some changes, but we still have to show up in other ways, whether it's a job or it's relationship or family. We have to kind of work through the changes that are going to build the more secure supports, Taurus, that are going to let us have a foundation to stand on moving forward. Okay, so just knowing that this isn't like a one fell swoop and then we're in a new life. It takes time. There's going to be growing pains. There's definitely going to be growing pains because another energy that's showing up this week and is going to carry us into the second eclipse is that Mars in Cancer. Okay, super important because Mars is the ruler of the Aries eclipse, and depending upon what systems we work with, a co-ruler of that Scorpio eclipse. I do work much more strongly with Scorpio ruled by Pluto, who is also a key player. The fact that Mars is also in a very particular position is important. It's part of the lineage of the Scorpio energy. And that Mars in Cancer, first of all, Mars in Cancer asking us to be so active about self-nurturing and nurturing others. That nurturing energy is like an umbrella that needs to kind of cover over us and then keep us in a little cocoon during all these transitions. And then that Mars is going to be in a direct exact square with Chiron this week. Exact day is on the 29th, but we're already feeling it. It's getting closer. And so, this Mars in Cancer, when it's during this intense eclipse season, especially when it's coming into an even more exact square with Chiron, that can pull some tender stuff up. That can pull some of the memories, the watery memories up. That, watery memories that then can have a burning Chiron and Aries with them. It's really important to remember that anything that comes up, especially if things are coming up from childhood, I feel is really coming up as part of the release that's going on. Pluto is asking us to release and transform and break down and break through. The Aries eclipse was really about a breakthrough. I think it's really important, you know, especially some pop culture, pseudo spirituality things that emerge in our social media realms can kind of romanticize transformations and breakthroughs. Think about that word. A breakthrough literally means that there is something that the energy is having to break down. Okay. That's not supposed to be easy. That's, you know, when we get all these messages and it's like, I think that the wellness industry of social media is confusing, to say the least, because the mechanism of these media platforms kind of can romanticize just because they're not equipped to talk for 20 minutes about the reality of what a breakthrough is. They're not equipped. They're designed to be trending and quick, and we're all caught up in this very instantaneous culture that social media breeds. And the energy of astrology is not instantaneous. Yes, we can have breakthroughs like an eclipse and something can shift, but the breakthrough is, it can be challenging. It might be a time when if you have a therapist or a good friend or a teacher or a mentor, that you reach out and you get some support, especially if stuff is coming up for you. Okay. You don't need to do that on your alone, if that's happening. It's also a wonderful time to journal. Journaling, making art. It's really important to, whatever's coming up, to get it out, externalize it. It doesn't matter what form that's happening in, whether it's, you know, journaling or making art or, oh my gosh, did I have the most beautiful paint splattering session on the eclipse, right? The energy just needs to move. And so that's really important to do with this Chiron energy that is present, that's getting a little bit more intense. And then that will be here in our second eclipse too. One other word about that journaling. Let's also remember that the ruler of the ruler of Taurus, spoiler, is Venus. And Venus is in Gemini, doing her Gemini thing, moving forward in Gemini. Gemini is energy that wants to communicate. It wants to make sense. So one of the ruling energies of this week is that Venus in Gemini. So maybe you do have conversations. It's important also to witness what's going on within ourselves. So that's why journaling is wonderful, because then we externalize and we get to see ourselves from all different angles, and we get to break down the illusion that life is a linear trajectory and things can come up and we can transform it, and we can be creative. Gemini is very creative energy. And it's also very important with that Venus and Gemini, when all of this Taurus energy is happening this week, to listen to the body. And this is, on the one hand, yes, if I need to rest, I rest. If I feel all this energy and I need to move, I move. It's also a wonderful idea to literally talk with your body, right? Like if you've got something going on, like even that motion, there's energy there that has things to say, okay? This is a long conversation. This is what I'm finishing a book on. The body always has things to say. And whether it's like journaling and doing it creatively, painting with it, just seeing what emerges. And again, if intense stuff comes up, then maybe you do call that person in your life that helps support you in the ways that you get support. Because eclipse season is a lot of energy. And this week, you know, if I had like one phrase, this week is about transformations and slowing down, okay? Taurus energy slows us down from all of that intensity of the Aries energy. It's like Aries needs to be intense. It needs to burst through. We need to get our impulses and our instincts, and they take us places. And then what do we do with that? We slow down and we remember that now we need to put things into place and we need to listen. And the body is so important in that putting things into place. Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop there because that's a lot. Blessings to everyone, no matter where you are. If this is your first time watching, hi. I'm Iris, and it's nice to meet you, and please subscribe and like and all of that jazz, and I will see you when we're chatting about the May 5th eclipse in my next video. Take care.